Okay, welcome back with our closing panel for this section. And they will discuss a really interesting and important topic, which might be a bit underrated in the industry discussion. So it will be about the job market developments in the blockchain and digital asset industry. And I'm now happy to hand over to Professor Philipp Sandner, the chair of the panel.
Yes, thank you very much, Manuel. Indeed, we decided to also put the topic of education here on our conference. We know that the education might not be as fancy as Bitcoin and the digital euro or the ECB token, so to say. Education might seem a little bit boring, but I think also a lot is being developed in these fields. We will talk about it. And most important, view it this way, in case we would have better educated decision makers, then all of us would have an easier life, right? And for this reason, I think education is dramatically important, and therefore I'm really happy to have a couple of European experts here in the panel from UK, from Switzerland and elsewhere. This would also not be possible without an online CAC probably, and therefore welcome everybody. Maybe Arno, please present yourself briefly. You as a person, the company of your affiliation, and also a little bit your perspective on this topic of education.
Thank you very much, Philipp. Thanks for having us here on this great conference. My name is Arnold Bernthala. I have co-founded together with the different universities the DAC Institute, and the purpose is to drive standardized certification in the market, as there are many different claiming experts out there. And I think now, as more institutional projects are being initiated, it's time for people and experts to prove their expertise. I myself have been working in the industry since 3 years now. I've been involved in different enterprise projects and now in the tokenization of commodities.
Excellent. Tim, you're a professor in Switzerland. Please also present yourself, your background, and your general perspective on the topic of education in blockchain.
Thanks, Philipp, for this introduction. And yes, my name is Tim Weingarten. I'm lecturer and researcher at the Lucerne University of Applied Science and Arts. My background, besides teaching, before I worked 15 years in the financial industry, so I have a little bit of background in this, but now on a research perspective, also focusing on self-sovereign identity and IoT and blockchain. And my perspective, as a lecturer on this side, is seeing all these nice use cases you also have seen the last 3 days, and wondering who will all implement those, mostly prototypes at the moment, but in the next years we want to have a lot of those cases up and running.
Exactly. Tim, people like you, me, Paolo, we really demanded, educating all the people who then hopefully will be employed by the blockchain ecosystem. That's really good. Marcel, would you like to add something?
Yeah, hello. Very nice to meet you. My name is Marcel. I'm a board member of the Crypto Valley Association. Crypto Valley Association here in Switzerland. It's the biggest one with over 8,000 ecosystem members and over 1,500 really active members that contribute constantly to this growing ecosystem. Over 100 corporate members. Pleasure to be here today, and also we feel, of course, as a Crypto Valley or as an association, that the demand on education is rising. We see it on the individual level as well as on the corporate level, where actually the companies are looking for certified people, educated people, that makes the life easier for them.
Exactly. Very nice. And Simon, please also present yourself briefly.
And thank you very much. My name is Simon Valk. I'm the Chief of Staff at Signum. Signum is the world's first digital asset bank. So we have a banking license in Switzerland. We also have a presence in Singapore and are fully focused on digital assets. Maybe my role in this panel is to be on the beneficiary side, if I want to say so. So I'm dependent on all the education that is going on because, we're looking for talent. And obviously, the better people are educated about these topics, the better for us as we have more talent to choose from.
Yeah, excellent. Arno, you might remember when we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, I asked you the question, how many people would you expect to be working in the Swiss blockchain ecosystem? You know, like Zurich, Zug, and maybe 50 kilometers plus minus around it. Do you still have this estimation at hand? What would you guess?
I think this was my personal estimation, Philip, but I think we have a couple of speakers here in the panel who are also living in Switzerland. So my suggestion would be to take an average of what Simon and Marcel is saying and myself. I would claim people actively being engaged in projects in Switzerland being around 2,000 to 5,000. That's my personal guess.
Not necessarily full-time probably, but, at least somehow significantly being involved from various perspectives, right? Would you judge this, Tim, Marcel, any figures going up or down? Or would you say this should be okay, 2,000 to 5,000? It's difficult to judge. And Paolo, do you have an estimation number for London, or is this extremely difficult to estimate?
Hello, Philip. Thank you. The estimation of what exactly, Philip, are you asking?
Yeah, how many people would you expect or estimate to work in the London blockchain ecosystem?
Well, it's like taking a picture of a movie. The movie is changing every second, and if you take a picture today, tomorrow is already old. If we look back in 2016, globally we had about 5,000 developers, blockchain developers, back in 2016. In 2018, we had roughly 100,000 developers, and now we have more than 100,000, roughly 200,000, even more. But these figures are pale compared to, for example, the 9 million of Java developers around the world, or 20 million of global overall developers around the world, so software developers in general. So, the ecosystem is growing at a fast pace. So we need to keep monitoring this trend, and certainly the recent reports are encouraging us and telling us that this is an uptrend. So we need to provide support to this market request for developers, for executive education, even because there is a lack of executive education. We observe quite a lot. Half of the managers out there, by a recent State Street Corporation report, show that they lack knowledge about blockchain. So we need to support both the education at the ground of the pyramids and also on the top of the pyramids. So providing education to the top managements to help them to take right decisions in this digital transformation phase.
Okay, excellent. So for speaking for Germany, I would say that last year, here in Frankfurt, there should have been maybe 200, maybe 250 people working somehow related to blockchain. That's Frankfurt, right? And by now, 1 year later, I would now estimate it to be maybe 400, 500, but there are no official sources for it. But you see here, it's strongly increasing. And in Germany, there is also Munich developing very nicely. And of course, Berlin, which in Germany is the largest ecosystem. So you see, all numbers are increasing, so it's worth it dealing with education. Maybe Simon at Signum, at the bank here. How many applications do you get day by day, week by week, and how do you look at applications? Is it masses? Is it single applications? And what are you looking at to really say, okay, this guy, this girl, we have a chat with her?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, also here, the number of yesterday is different than the number tomorrow. And I think what's overall very impressive is just how the number of applications is growing. So we see just a tremendous increase of people looking for these kind of jobs that we offer. But yeah, in a good week, we definitely have more than 1,000 applications, which is a lot for us at this size. We're a bit more than 100 people, but we have around 40 positions open. So I think that also shows how strong we are growing. Now, what is interesting, if I look at the profiles, is definitely how they have changed. Obviously, this again depends on which function we're recruiting for. But if I would go for the general profile, I would just say that 1.5, 2 years ago, you had to be lucky that someone knows you and someone comes up with an application because they're interested. They're probably also more the experts. Maybe they have been in crypto for a while and they want to build this future together, right? And nowadays, or in past 9 months, maybe, obviously highly correlated with what's going on in crypto markets. More and more people are educated, more and more people are interested in the topic, are probably invested themselves. And hence the demand has really increased, and it's a different profile that is applying today. So we have seasoned financial experts that apply. Maybe they're don't believe in the institution they work today. They see that things are not happening fast enough in this traditional world. They want to build the future in a startup environment or in a smaller, faster scaled, agile environment. Or they just think, I need this new challenge, basically, and this new environment. And yeah, we have really applications from people from national banks to people working for big institutional banks. So it's all across the board, but very interesting how this has changed. And now, how do we select? I think, obviously, if people bring a passion for the topic, this is not a must, but helps because then you already see that, if you talk to the person, they have an interest in the field and obviously are also better educated than normally. On the other hand side, for us, working in a still strongly growing environment, it's also important that people are not used for large teams because you have to get active yourself. So it's this mix of someone who has a bit of knowledge about the topic, but who's also self-driving. Because without that, I think, you should not work in a fast scaling environment.
Yeah, same here. We at the Frankfurt School Blockchain Center, we also get some applications, not thousands, but dozens definitely. And to judge blockchain knowledge is extremely difficult because there is no standardization out there, right? We will talk about this in a second. So we here in Frankfurt, we are doing some kind of standardized work sample to be able to compare people. This works, but it's just like a workaround, right? Arno, over to you. Why is attestation certifications of blockchain knowledge important, and how are you doing this at DEC?
I think it's important for the reason that Simon just explained, right? You as a corporate, if you're getting thousands of applications for one specific job role, you're better equipped with just providing your motivation, how much you want to move the industry. Because just by saying that you are motivated, you don't have any proof of capabilities and know-how that you gained through the past years. And then it's going to be a difficult, application for you compared to other applicants. So that's the first thing why I find it important to have such a possibility for people who want to enter into the industry to at least prove that they know something about it without having worked in this industry in the past. And that has been in the last 3 years a little bit a barrier for people to enter in the industry because they needed to prove that they either know the people, they either are connected to some projects or have been working left and right. So now I think similar like with the CFA certificate, you can prove a certain financial analyst capability that you have gained. And now that's the purpose of the DAC Institute with the different certificates and exams that we are providing. You can prove a certain standard. And if this is applied across different academic institutions and with the active industry members that we have on board, like Ripple, Tezos, and Web3 Foundation, we also bring in not only the academic standard, but really the industry standard. And that's where we are onboarding now also companies, large institutional companies, that are working in that space because they are defining what is the talent that we need? What is the know-how that is required? Because obviously we want to meet and match there the interest of the applicant and the industry.
Yeah, excellent. And Tim, I think your profile is similar than us. We also have students here at the Frankfurt School, but also professional education for people in normal jobs, banks, and so on. I think that should be similar at your university, right? Can you elaborate a little bit more on education, what you're doing within your university for students, but also outside the university for professional education?
Yeah, so we offer modules on the blockchain area for bachelor students and also research projects for master students, but also in the professional or continuous education program, Certificate of Advanced Studies. We've been the first university in Switzerland offering a CAS in 2017. And I see the growing field of blockchain, because blockchain, it's not where AI is today, but blockchain is not only DeFi. Blockchain is not only self-sovereign identity. We have so many flavors of blockchain know-how, and also of development know-how, which haven't been discussed yet. And I think that's a reason why we need some kind of standardization and certification, because if I go to a company and say I have blockchain know-how, then there are several levels and skill levels of this know-how.
Yeah, perfectly agree. And Marcel, it's not just about learning things at a university. I think it's also about operative knowledge, hands-on knowledge, getting stuff done, and so on. Can you maybe try to explain this a little bit with more details? What is important besides universities' knowledge?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, at the CVA, Crypto Valley Association, we have institutional as well as private members, right? And the industry is signaling momentum. It's growing. The Crypto Valley is growing, and it's reflected in many areas. Like there are many unicorns now here in Switzerland or in the Crypto Valley, and well-funded startups located here, and they are in need of, I would say, certified employees. It's one reason also the CVA actually initiated an on-demand education platform for its members. And we are looking to partner, as example, with the DEC Institute, because we believe that the education part and the certification part is really needed for, building and do the operation behind the scene that is so necessary, that you hire the right people. And this is the way we try to give back to the ecosystem.
Okay, hire good people and get out of their way. That's a famous saying. I think some of you guys know it. But let's talk more about standardization of blockchain knowledge. Maybe, Tim, can you explain why is standardization so important? Is it because the variety of fields which we are touching in blockchain is so broad? Is it because deep tech is relevant, cryptography is relevant, you have conceptual knowledge, all is somehow blended with regulatory issues and so on? It seems very interdisciplinary. Is this the reason why standardization is so important, or are there further reasons why we need more standardization of blockchain knowledge?
Yes, as mentioned before, we have many skill levels and many varieties when we look at all the use cases, and all the use cases have this kind of interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary topics where we also have some kind of legal knowledge. We also have to understand the paradigm of blockchain development, which is not very similar to other development directions, and also the whole ecosystem thinking, I think, is different in the blockchain world, and there some kind of standardization and some kind of assurance that several skill levels have been reached by people is essential from my point of view.
Yeah, excellent. And Paolo, would you like to add something here about how education is being done at your place, and also talking about whether you have local practices in place to somehow standardize the knowledge you are transferring?
Well, thank you, Philip. So there is, we need to basically understand which type of roles we are talking about. Because if we talk about technical roles, we think that, even looking at the recent blockchain job market report issued by the University of Arkansas, the most you need is the computer skills and experience building applications that you can even build in an extra curriculum activity outside the degree. Okay, so I think that there is a part from a technical role. There is a need for a degree on roles that require operational skills like digital business skills, legal roles that require some understanding of business analytics, and research role, of course. So in that areas, the degrees are very important, and we are working on this. We are launching for this coming new academic year, 2 master programs at the University College London. One is a master in financial technology, and another one is a master degree in emerging digital technologies. But I'm also very convinced that during the last decades, we have seen an emerging, offer of additional, extracurricular programs that are competing with standard academic degrees, and this shift the importance to the certification level. So, what is indeed important for an applicant that is looking for a job in the job market is to signal that he has the skill. The recruiter doesn't really care from where these skills have been built from. What is important if the candidate is able to signal the skills, and the certificates, like the work that DEC is doing, I think is very powerful, because this is basically a vehicle that will help these candidates to signal their skills wherever they get the skills, either from a degree, proper structured degree, or from their own extracurriculum activity that they can do sourced outside.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, what I can also add as interesting observations is the following. Let's see whether you agree. We have 2-3 more minutes. We see that open source is a very interesting driver of education. For example, open source leads also lecturers at universities to easily get the material which they use for their education. And this way, for example, you see at the Technical University in Munich, you see approximately 200 people learning Ethereum year by year. And you see the same at the Technical University of Darmstadt, where people are learning Ethereum, like I think 100, 200 people per year. Why is this? Because lecturers also have fun teaching the technology and also getting access to open source technologies. And to be honest, I could imagine that this is, for example, one reason why Hyperledger did not really pick up, because there is simply the education base missing. It's not all open source, right? As a lecturer, you might have some licenses to purchase. It's just not as easy to appropriate the knowledge, right? I think that could be a reason why Ethereum grows so strongly. It's the flexibility of the platform. Cardano is the same and so on, but it's Ethereum is the masterpiece at this point of time, and lecturers also having fun educating their students there, and then you have hundreds of people being educated year by year. That's an interesting thought I wanted to add. Okay, yeah, one of the last questions here, maybe Arno, to you. We now talked about standardization of the knowledge and of education. What about the standardization of certification? Because standardizing the knowledge is not sufficient, right? You also need to standardize an attestation, a certificate, and so on. Otherwise, the knowledge cannot really be brought about as a signal that somebody really owns it, right? I hope the audience is getting the understanding. But Arno, would you like to add something on the importance of certification?
Yeah, just in a nutshell, I think I before mentioned also the importance from a corporate perspective, but also from an applicant perspective, but also the importance from an education provider perspective, because you see now, I don't know how many education providers out there, And obviously, the academic partners here in the call, they have a certain standing where there's a certain trust involved. But who says that each education provider on blockchain is providing the same level and deepness and hands-on learning as someone would like to have, right? So even for education provider, it's important now to prove that their candidates and their clients and their students are receiving a certain level in order to pass an exam. Because each education provider could obviously provide his own exam, but I assume that's a little bit biased. And if we are able to convince many education providers to comply to a certain standard of knowledge that their students require to have, then we create competition in the market. We create competition across applicants, and even inside the enterprises, you get a certain knowledge competition effect that is boosting constant self-learning over the weekends. Obviously, during the week in a blockchain company, there's no time for that. But I think it's a valuable game that you're bringing in the market.
Absolutely. I think this is a very, very good point. We see also here with regard to education that besides development of protocols and companies and consulting companies and law firms and so on, the entire ecosystem is increasingly growing, and also you now see standardization of education and so on also being introduced. With this, I would like to end this panel. Thank you very much for being here, and I would like to hand over back to Manuel.